Okay, Nuha, we're ready whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to session 7, and it's a conversation on conservation. A little bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, I'll jump straight in. So, first, I'll start off with just a little bit about me. So, I'm Sri Lankan, but I was born and raised in Abu Dhabi, and I just moved to Melbourne last year to study. So, I'm studying a Bachelor of Science, but I'm majoring in ecology and conservation biology, and I'm minoring in zoology. And just a little fun fact, I really like animals. Growing up, I've had I feel like every standard pet you can think of, like I've had them all. I've said dogs, like all hamsters, guinea pigs, cats, like I even had a pigeon, like everything. And yeah, I really like animals and I'm hoping to get into megafauna. So pretty much just like big mammals and more into behavioral ecology, which I'll get into later. And I added a little picture of me scuba diving in an aquarium just because that's a fun hobby to have. So I thought I'll start off with asking you guys, what do you think conservation is? Like, what do you think conservation and ecology is? You can answer in the chat or you can unmute yourself if you're comfortable. Because people always ask me, and I always tell them, like, oh, I'm majoring in ecology and conservation. And the first thing they say to me is, like, what is that? Like, what do you mean? So I thought it'd be really interesting to see what your guys' like perspective is on it. So I'll give you like 30 seconds to answer. It is similar to environmental science, I would say, but I don't think they're interchangeable because environmental science is its own um like major. It is about protecting the environment, yes. Yeah, everyone's pretty much on point. It's very much about protecting nature and using resources. They're two different things. So ecology is more of like the umbrella term of like anything. It's like the study of the interactions of living things with each other and their physical environment. So pretty much a lot of the environmental field falls under ecology, and conservation is one of them. Conservation is under ecology, which is just like the focus. It's focused on protecting biodiversity and natural ecosystems. So ecology just explains how nature works, and conservation just helps protect it. So they definitely like tie in together, but ecology is more of a broad term for it, and conservation is one of like the subspecialties, I would say. And now, like, why is it important? Like, why is this a field that people should focus on and people should like study and just want to be involved in? So everything is connected. Ecology helps us understand how plants, animals, people, and the environment all interact with each other and what happens when the balance is disrupted. Because when one thing falls apart, it's like a snowball effect. Everything ends up being impacted, whether that's in the long term or short term. And biodiversity sustains life. So diverse ecosystems are productive, resilient, and essential for things like food and water. Without a diverse environment, like pretty much the ecosystem will definitely be disrupted. Diversity is good, as we should all know. And we're also unfortunately losing nature fast. So human activities are causing stuff like mass extinctions, deforestation and it's like shifting our climate at alarming rates recently, which is really impacting just a whole like all like ranges of the environment are getting impacted by human behavior. And conservation is how we respond to this. It's our solution and our response to like the changing environment around us. It's really focused on protecting our ecosystem and like restoring what we've destroyed to try and get everything back and balance to how it should be. So how does it affect us? Because we always seem to take things more personally when we know how it impacts us, and it's not just like a faraway problem that's like way out of reach that we're not really like it's in our circle, while it, environmental problems will impact us, whether it's directly or indirectly, it will happen. So food is something we're all really dependent on. And our ability to grow food is dependent on nature. So bees and other pollinators help our fruit and vegetable grow. Healthy soils support crops, and stable climates help like the growing seasons. We need stable growing seasons to know when to plant crops, when to plant which crops. And all of that is dependent on our ecosystem. And when that's threatened, our food systems are threatened, which obviously affects us. And then clean air and water. Forest, wetlands, and oceans naturally are like natural filters. Wetlands filter clean water. Forest, they obviously take in carbon and release oxygen. Oceans also, they take in oxygen. They're one of the, I think they're in fact the largest like body that sequesters carbon, and they also help regulate weather cycles. And all of this is really like all of these different like factors are really important to the stability of our climate. And then another one is disease risk. So actually, all the glaciers that are frozen are either thousands or millions of years old, and they all trap like ancient, not all of them, that's a bit of an overstatement, but some of them trap and like hold really ancient diseases in them. And as they're starting to melt because of global warming, these ancient diseases are, even if we're not directly drinking the water, maybe we're using it to like water our crops or like other ways. And as they enter our bodies, we could be at risk to all these ancient diseases that we're not familiar with at all. And also because we're destroying natural habitats, animals are forced to, well, it's, you could say animals are forced to be in contact with us, but it's more like we're forcing them to be in contact with us. And because of this close in this distance, and the closer contact, there's the like the spread of diseases between animals and humans, as we know through like bird flu and other um, diseases that spread through animals that are deadly towards us. So conservation can actually like help stop, not help stop pandemics, but maybe can, it's in the process of helping prevent them. And natural disaster protection. So ecosystems such as mangroves and coral reefs and forests, they act as a buffer against floods, storms, and coastal erosions. So as I said, I'm Sri Lankan, and 2004 there was the Indian Ocean tsunami, and Sri Lanka was our coastline was impacted by the tsunami. And it's really interesting because if you go further and you research this, there's a lot of case studies on how the deforestation of mangroves that have been removed probably for infrastructure, and like the difference between different coastlines that have mangroves still on them versus the ones that have them destroyed, and how the tsunami, like the impact of the tsunami differs between the two different locations. So if that's something you guys want to research further, it's a very interesting topic because this is something that did impact like lives and take homes and yeah, along, and it's not just Sri Lanka, it's along all like a lot of different countries in South Asia during the time. And also our livelihoods and economies. Millions of people rely on the environment for their livelihoods and their jobs. So when this is threatened, it's not just like, oh, like there's deforestation, like, or like the fish is moved. It's like, no, like different people are struggling to survive, and like their genuine like jobs are being directly impacted by this. So I thought a really good example of clean like air and water is Cape Town. So back in 2016, 2017, they had a really bad drought that went on for years, or either months or like over a year. And the drought was so bad that they had a countdown for the amount of clean water, the amount of days they had clean water left for. Like the government like put up a little countdown board and like would change the numbers because that's how bad the drought has been, because their dam level was decreasing because of the drought. And in order to combat this, they really scared everyone with day zero, which was upcoming. And obviously now this happened in 2018. Thankfully, they moved on from this. They got rainfall. And it wasn't just rainfall that helped them overcome this issue. It was community action. They all made sure to watch their water levels to make sure they're like, not wasting water. And it's really interesting because a lot of the time I feel like people imagine like, oh, like I don't have water. Like, no, like a lot of the countries we live in don't have a natural source of clean water. Like I lived in the UAE, a lot of like the water we shower with and like even flush toilets with is from the ocean. It's desalinated water. It's been through like machines to make it clean and usable for us. Like we don't have a natural source of clean water. So if something happened to the machines that clean our water for us, we would probably, I think I saw someone say we had like a week or just a few days before no one has access to water anymore. And this is a serious like upcoming issue for us. And it's all over the world. Like the world unfortunately is running out of clean water. So the things that we can do now is obviously just try our best not to waste water, whether it's just like turning off the tap or just, like just make sure you're careful with your water because it is a very like risked resource. And another example I like to focus on is Vanuatu, which I visited this year, well, like December last year. And Vanuatu is it's a few islands it's in the Pacific Ring of Fire, and it's right next to Fiji, if that helps you with its geographic location better. But Vanuatu, unfortunately, is at a risk to pretty much every natural disaster you can think of. Like volcanoes, they have earthquake. Like a month after we left, there was an earthquake, and it was really bad. It was horrible. They have cyclones often. They also get drought. They get both the cyclones and drought. Tsunamis, they're at risk for pretty much every natural disaster they're at risk for. So we went and we weren't focusing on the natural disaster part of it, but we were really focusing on how they're adapting to climate change and like gender inequality within the main island that we visited, which was Port Vila. And a few of the pictures here was some of the ones that I took. Some of them are just because they were pretty to like show you what it's like. But the bottom right, is coral reefs. We learned how the local community was all working together to plant more coral reefs. Because over there, they believe if your house is on the coast, it's not just the property that belongs to you, but you're also responsible for the ocean and the shoreline directly opposite your house. Like that's yours to take care of as well. And as you can see, the thing under the like barred wires was a little like clay, and you would stick baby corals in, and you would also tie corals onto a netted wire, and you would help it grow. So that's like a little coral nursery. So after a while, after it's grown and more stable on its own, they would go and plant it in a proper coral bed. And we also learned about a lot of integrated farming techniques. They also, I don't have a picture of it, but they started planting vertically a lot of their crops because they found that was a better way to preserve water. And then the pigs, I just had a picture of pigs, but they used cows to help graze their land, their farmland. So overgrazing is also a really big problem in a lot of different farmlands. And overgrazing is pretty much, as you can see, the land that the pigs are on, it's completely flat. There's no grass. Like they pretty much just sucked all like it's not the pig's fault because that's how they live. But like, and imagine that if it's like hundreds of cows doing that, then it would be a much larger surface area. So what they do is that they have their cows and then they close them off in this area. And then after a few weeks, or maybe I think it was less than a month, they move the cows in their enclosed area. So the cows are feeding on different parts of the land, so it's not at risk for being overgrazed, but the cows are still being able to graze it. So it's still helping and nourishing the land through like through putting stuff back into the soil while not taking the nutrients out of it, which is still helping the crops grow. And we made sure, they said that they put the cows in whenever like there's at risk, there's like the cyclone alarm, so there's like an earthquake coming, they make sure to keep the cows in their little trailer and move them around so they're still safe. But I wanted to touch on that pretty much all of their local livelihoods were dependent on nature. So whether it was like climate change from coral bleaching and temperatures rising, or just like droughts and cyclones affecting their crops, pretty much all of their livelihoods in one way or another was dependent on their ecosystem around them, which is why it ties into how it affects us, how climate change and like conservation affects us. So since that was a little bit of a darker note, I thought we'd think of a happier point and success stories. So thankfully, when I was looking at this, there was a lot of success stories that I could touch on, but I really like whales, so that's why I chose the humpback whale. So back in the 17th century, humpback whales were hunted for their oil to use in lamps and like as lamp fuels. And by the time whaling was officially banned, their population reduced by 95%, which is like a huge, like drastic amount. Within the first year, I think it was 91 whales were caught within their first year of like hunting, which is a lot, especially when you think about the size of these whales. Like 91 is like an insane amount. And that's just the first year. Like as time went on, there's probably more and more boats and more whale catchers to come and hunt them. And then hunting, so they banned hunting first, but obviously you can ban something, but like not everyone's going to follow it. So they had to have a worldwide like initiative to like properly put a stop at hunting humpback whales after they saw like they realized that 95% was like their population reduced by 95%. And I think it was just in the 1980s, which wasn't that long ago, when like they fully like globally decided to stop. And now today 84,000 humpback whales are like swimming across our oceans, which is still not the numbers it was pre-whaling, but it's still increasing. It's close to pre-whaling numbers, which is obviously a step in the right direction. Another success story is in Kenya. So in Kenya during the 70s, they had an increase of deforestation and desertification. And the women in the village, they would have to travel, I think it was like miles, to be able to collect firewood and other crops to be used when like back home in their own village. So one of the ladies in the village, she decided to create like a green belt. It's called a green belt because they planted it like vertically. So I think from above it just looked like a huge belt. But like they decided to plant loads of she like decided to get together with all the women in the community, and they planted loads of seedlings. And now there's over 51 million trees have been planted since the 70s. So I imagine if you were down there and you were walking through it, it would just look like a full lush forest, when that's just like their hard work. That's like all on them for just going out and being proactive and planting them. And there's loads of success stories, and there's loads of a lot of grassroots projects within the ecology and conservation like field. A lot of them from youth, from people our age. They just find something that they're passionate about and something that impacts them. And they really like, everyone starts small. Like I know a lot of people. I have a friend, she's from Indonesia. She plants like corals on on like the weekend. And I have another friend, like they're really involved with mangroves. They started their own like mangrove like foundation. Like everyone just finds something really personal to them, and like they really go from there. I remember talking to someone from Pakistan, and they were collecting trash. They were just using waste and creating bricks out of them to start creating homes. Like you can, like everyone starts really small and then they always build up. And it's amazing how many, like, because the environmental field is so broad that it impacts, like you can go into it with everything, which like especially anything within STEM. Like I remember my geography teacher telling us, she was like, if you're going to do anything, go into environmental engineering. I am not an engineering person, so it's like, no way. But she was like, that's going to be like the most in-demand job in the future. And we're all like, whoa, like, okay. Because like the environmental field goes into like even like technology, like sustainable technology. It's definitely a growing field that like, that's also rewarding because it gives back knowing that you're actually making an impact in the world. So I thought we're going to feel the ongoing challenges that comes with this field. So climate change, as we know, it impacts everything. And as temperature rises and rainfall patterns shift, species are struggling to like survive in their natural habitats. So coral reefs are bleaching, polars are losing ice, and droughts are happening. They're affecting forest and crops. So conservation needs to evolve with these climate adaptations and have to learn to, because you can talk about like, oh yeah, like these plants are being affected through like, you know, excessive rainfall, but you need to think about when you're like doing like, especially as like scientists, as we're like studying them, you need to think about how it would be impacted 10 years from now or even just 5 years from now due to climate change. There's also limited funding and resources, because a lot of the time sometimes like conservation isn't seen as a priority, and a lot of the times projects rely on donations, volunteers, or just like short-term grants. And I know this for a fact because I would say I'm quite involved with a few like conservation efforts. and it's all volunteer work. Like I don't think like I've never been like it's not very like come help us with this and you'll get paid. It's very much like you just have to like give because like a lot of these are because these causes do matter, but it's just that it is underfunded and sometimes undervalued as well. There's also human wildlife conflict. There's a like a if you haven't seen a lot of the times on the news, there's about like elephants invading farmlands, and it's hard because communities are like local communities are just trying to protect their own livelihoods while conservationists are trying to protect the animals. So it's a conflict between like, oh, what's the priority when the solution really should be involving both? Because you can't blame elephants for like destroying farms when it's because their habitats were destroyed. But the farmers also have the right to be mad that, because they don't deserve that either. So the solutions have to really involve both parties and take them both into account. And then there's also balancing development with nature, especially like new developing countries. It's like they have the right to develop and to grow, and that they shouldn't have to sacrifice their environment, like and decide to not protect the environment to be able to grow. Because that shouldn't be a decision they have to make, but unfortunately it is. So it's like, how much do you value the nature you like your local nature? Like, is it more than like you want to develop? It's like it's quite a difficult decision they have to face. And the solution would be just to like have both, but a lot of the time they can't do that. So that's an ongoing challenge. And another one is political and policy barriers. A lot of the time there can be like, oh yeah, like there can be environmental laws, but sometimes they aren't like they're not like enforced. Like you can have all the laws you want, but if they're not enforced, then like it's practically as if it's not there, or there might not even be like laws in place to enforce, first of all. So then it's like, oh, like we need to raise awareness to make even stuff just like making littering illegal, or like enforcing people to recycle, because then it's like people will do stuff when there's monetary consequences, which is the only people who can enforce that is the government. So a lot of the big challenge is political and political barriers, because conservation is quite dependent on like political will to enforce the causes. And now I would like to ask you guys, why do you think youth matter? Like, why do you think our voices are important in this field? Because a lot of the stuff, like if you just Google like, oh, like youth in environmental like conservation, like there'll be loads of leadership and there'll be loads of studies about why our voices matter. But I wanted to ask you guys why you think that. So I'll give you a few seconds to answer in the chat. They're usually the ones to take action. That is very true. I thought it's because, first of all, like we bring the energy and urgency. Like we lead a lot of the climate, not we, but like youth historically as well, lead a lot of the climate and community action across the world. And we also bring new ideas and fresh perspectives as we've grown up with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what the new generation will change, because they've like been born into like you have to recycle, like climate change is bad, while we've kind of because we've kind of, yeah, we do know the present problems a lot better. That's true. We are the ones who take action. We wish it was the people a bit older than us, but like we have to start from somewhere. And also, our future is at stake. It's like we're the people who are growing up. The people now who might be destroying the environment, they might not be here long enough to see the consequences of their actions, while we probably will be. Like, if you don't, I'm not sure if you guys know, but a lot of the like global environmental laws, they they have like a deadline till like 2050. They're like, we have to all do this before 2050 or 2030. There's a good chance that we would be alive in 2050, so we would be there to see the consequences and to see. There's this thing called a turning point with fossil fuels. They're like, if climate change, if global warming really reaches this point, there's like no chance to turn back, to turn around. Like the consequences will be there. And it's like we will probably be alive to see whether we reach that point or not. And we have the ability to influence and to communicate, especially with social media nowadays. That's like one of the main ways to reach out to people. And there's no one else better to use social media than us, I would say. And also change starts early. Like small actions do lead to big things. And there's no one, like, I would say, better to do that than us. Because we can, like, especially whenever I go to these conferences and stuff, there's always someone who's like your age, like in high school doing stuff. And they're like, yeah, I started when I was 12. And they always just start small. Like maybe they they recycle, they upcycle their own clothing, and now it's like a really big deal. And it's a lot of the time it's just something small they started in their bedrooms that have really grown over the years. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about what, like, different types of ecology, since this, in my experience, is a little less of a spoken about field in STEM. Because I do go to quite a few like STEM networking nights, and they have never been productive to me because they're never about like anything to do with like the environment or my field. It's very much like engineering, IT, like medicine. And I'm like, hey guys, like, where's, so it hasn't been very productive to me. So I thought it would, like, it'd be nice to share with you guys. So my favorite type of ecology is behavioral ecology. And this is they're all pretty much self-explanatory. Behavioral ecology is just like, it's very much like behavioral of animals. And one of the TAs at my uni, actually, she is doing a PhD on like the behavior of bees. And I was shocked to hear about some of the stuff she was talking about. She was talking like she taught bees maths. Like, I'm not sure how she did that, but like they can do maths apparently. They can like do all these like problem solving skills. Obviously, they have the incentive to get like the nectar at the end, but like they have the ability to like be able to like look and like work out, like it'll be like two. I think they were quite complicated math problems as well. I don't think it was as easy as 2 plus 2 and then like they have to go through the 4. I think it was like long division, but that was really interesting to see that, like, because like who would think that bees have the ability to do that? Because like if like you would assume like maybe like monkeys, but like bees, that was really surprising to me. Molecular ecology is just more about the genetics. Population is very much about the structure of populations and like how they interact with each other. Community is how those interactions affect the community. Global ecology is more about like, it's kind of more about like the biosphere and like different like spheres of the earth, like overall. And landscape ecology is kind of like how the interactions affect like like the environment more, if that makes sense. And then also where conservation biology can take you. So one of the main ones is research and field work. I feel like this could be one of the more fun ones, because the thing about this field is that it's very proactive. Like, it's not very like 9 to 5, like in an office, like sat down. Like, there's a lot of like, you're going out, you're in the field, which I really enjoy. And research and field work. There's also wildlife and habitat protection, environmental science and tech, policy and advocacy. That one will probably go more into like governmental jobs, and also education and outreach. Education and outreach, I would say, is the easiest to get into as youth. Like, all of the work that I've been involved in has very much been outreach work within the community and trying to get everyone together and having little community events, like whether it would be like, I would go into it later at the end, but there's a lot of different stuff you could do within outreach. And I thought it would be nice to see, like, say how you guys can get involved. You're more than welcome to write in the chat if you have done anything to get involved yet, because it's always nice to see what different people are doing. But a few things that you guys can do is, one of them is citizen science projects. So I've actually seen citizen science projects in literally like 3 different continents, and they were always like, so in within the UAE, there's a lot of citizens in science, and the main thing they like to use is this app called iNaturalist, where you take pictures of different plants and you're able to, like, you say the location or even animals, and you can reach out to scientists so they can help you identify them, and you say the time mark, so it kind of marks where like, like migration patterns or where different plants are growing, and it's really interesting. In Vanuatu, the coral monitoring project that I was showing you guys picture of was a citizen science project. So it's pretty much you just train the community to help partake in scientific either research or scientific projects, because like there's power in numbers and you need more people, so being able to train the community to take out that work is really good. You can also volunteer locally. I feel like in most countries there should be like local tree planting initiatives or maybe even beach cleanups. You can start or join a school eco club. I was in my school eco club and it was really fun. It was very much like an artsy eco club. We would do little artsy activities like every week. It was really fun. You can also just like raise your voice. It doesn't have to be like, oh, like going to protest, just like speaking out when you see something wrong and advocating for change. And then the main one is just keep learning. That's just like, if you keep learning and you keep like just like expanding your knowledge, you really get to see what different things about. And then I thought, as I'm pretty sure you guys are like in high school age, I thought it'd be nice to show you guys what studying my major is like. This is just the nice part of it for sure. There's a lot of report, there's a lot of lab work as well. But right now, all of my classes are just I'm in second year. All of my classes are just labs. My lectures are online, but like everything's just labs. Obviously, every uni might be different. But for me, I also chose to go to Australia because as it's such a big continent and it's also an island, they have a lot of endemic species, which I really like would like to enjoy learning about. So on the bottom left is a field trip I had this semester actually. We went to a beach. We were looking at the different like changes along the coastline. And then there's a microscope because pretty much every lesson we have to use a microscope. Whether it's as the top, you can see that's a, a cross section of a worm. We have a lot of dissections as well so far. We've had to dissect a worm, a cockroach, a squid, nothing big, thankfully, but like a lot of little animals, which would be, you could say, is interesting as we're learning about protecting them, but also a lot of plants. The top right picture, I didn't do that. It was another field trip we took to the botanical gardens to talk about their different plants, but we did have to make these. One of my assignments was we had to collect 10 plants and make it like a herbarium sheet like that and hand it in. We have to identify them. And then the bottom two pictures were during field trips too, but they were last year. We were learning about the coastline, and this was more like geology based because also first year is a lot more generalized for me. So we're learning about the different rocks and like how the coastline, like, you know, why they're there in different locations and like the history behind them. But they're always really nice because they're also really beautiful field trips, and it's so fun to have because I think I've had like at least two or like a semester so far. While a lot of my friends who also are in STEM, they unfortunately don't get field trips. So it's really nice to be out in the field. And even when it's just like, maybe it's not a field trip, but it's just like within class, it's always very much like hands-on work. You always have to do a report, like a lab report for it. But I think the hands-on work makes it like worth it for sure. And then I thought I would talk about a little bit of my journey. So I really started getting involved straight after I graduated high school. So, because I came to Australia from the UAE, there was a difference in like scheduling of like when the semester starts. So I had like 6 months off till like Australia uni started up again. And I decided to start get involved with Emirates Nature WWF in Abu Dhabi. And I would say the best way to network is to get involved with things. Like I've never been able, as I said, to go to a networking event and like get connections straight away. But when you go to like just local like events that it doesn't have to be environmental, it could just be like in your field, and you just talk to everyone. Maybe like I asked them, I was like, "Do you guys have an internship?" And they were like, "Yeah, sign up for this and also talk to this person." And I did that, and then everything's just snowballed since then for me. Like I've just like the like opportunities just keep like presenting themselves. Like I was able to go to COP28, which is like a really big environmental conference that happens like every year. This year is happening in Brazil, which is really fun. And the picture on the left is from COP28. There's a lot of like youth panels that happen. The picture of me with digging something is some of the work they do, some of their citizen science initiatives. These are, you plant a tree in them because obviously, as you can tell, it's in the desert. So the climate's really hot. So the bucket thing actually captures water and helps stores them. Um, the one on the right, the far right, is again the mountains, and this is a school trip. So I'm helping them learn, like helping the school learn about the environment and the different natures in the UAE. And yeah, there's a lot of conferences and a lot of just hands-on projects that you can do within this field. And there's just more like opportunities just keep presenting themselves, especially if you're proactive about it. But yeah, that's the end of my presentation. I thank you guys so much for listening. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. Oh, the clapping hands is really cute.